You're listening to Beauty, Strength, and Dominance, the official podcast of Lingerie Fighting Championships. And now, here's your host, Michael Larkin.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition of Beauty, Strength, and Dominance, the official LFC Lingerie Fighting Championships podcast. My name is Mike Larkin, and joining me today is an LFC OG. You may have saw it LFC 20, A Midsummer Night's Dream, Hard Rock Hotel Baby, Summer 2015. She took on in a memorable bout against Chloe Lady Killer Cameron, the one, the only, the Raven. Quote the Raven nevermore. Miss Kris Blackwell, how are you?
Okay, how are you?
I'm good. First and foremost, I gotta say, you have become one of the most watched with LFC on the LFC YouTube channel with over 9.5 million views on the highlights of your bout with Miss Clody Lady Killer Cameron. Man, oh man, what a fight. We'll get into it in a second, but goddamn, congratulations on that achievement.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the kind words always.
Oh, you're very welcome. Now let's get with that number, especially in today's day and age where everything is social media. It's all about going viral, and from the technological standpoint, it's something that we're really used to now in this day and age of digital media and everything in those regards. How does that make you feel that over 9 million people have watched such an amazing yet technical yet scrap out, if you will, fight between yourself and
Yeah.
Chloe?
I feel like I never actually knew that many people watched the video. It's kind of surreal to know the number is that large. It's it's humbling, I'll say. I'll say it's very humbling because when I did the fight, that wasn't like in my mind at all. It wasn't getting views. It was more of like an outlet for me personally. That's why I initially got involved in the project. That and I had an opportunity to represent my country. There's a lot of fighters that are based in the United States. So for me, I was like, okay, I can represent Edmonton specifically, Edmonton, Alberta, and then Canada. Um, and I was warned I would be met with a lot of opposition from the fans, and I was. I was booed pretty much the whole fight until I won. So I think I won some people over at the end of it for sure. But yeah, it was like a roar of boos when we were getting introduced in the ring. It was actually really interesting. So none of that was in my mind of like, oh, so many people are gonna see this is gonna be like millions of people are gonna love this fight. I just was like, okay, I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna give it my best effort and yeah, it was a really cool experience. So I'm always very happy for the opportunity that I got, but it's just been like it's been interesting to see because I still get sent videos. People still like re-edit it and they'll use the highlights from my fight and they'll send it to me and I just think it's really cool and really neat. I always repost it and I love when people send it to me because like it helped me grow as a person. It challenged me so much, especially my fight specifically. So I found it, yeah, I just find it humbling because I'm like, I'm not even, I feel like I'm not that interesting. So it's always interesting to me when people recognize me, even in my city that I don't know, or like they'll say things to me and they're like, I'm such a fan. And I'm like, wow, like this is so impactful. This one thing I did for an outlet for me to help with me. And it just, yeah, it empowered a lot of women. A lot of women love it. They're like, wow, like I'm a huge fan. I'm like, oh, thank you, you know?
Gotta say, first and foremost, I think you're quite interesting, man. I think a lot of people would find what the Raven is very interesting, and I think what I love about it, you're welcome, and what I love about it too as well. You represent Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and minus what the gentleman did. I mean, when people think of Edmonton, a lot of people think of what Chris Benoit did for professional wrestling during his tenure in it. Especially wrestling is very big in Canada, from Bret Hart and everything that goes into the Hart family dungeon. I mean, I think you're representing well. I mean, you look at a woman like Trish
Yeah.
Stratus from Toronto. You
Right.
came. Yes, and you met LFC head on. Like you mentioned it being a project for you. And here's what I love about it too. Break down the letters, LFC, Lingerie Fighting Championship. Here in the States, we have the LFL, the Lingerie Football League, which is bad.
Yes, I've heard of it.
Yes.
It's pretty dull. Like I love me some football, so I'm like, okay, you know what? That's actually, yeah. If I was younger and in better shape, I definitely would be like interested in doing that too.
I always make that equation. I love how you mentioned that, by the way, because it is very spot on. Because I mean, it's badass women playing football in their lingerie, looking sexy, the sex appeal, and I've always equated that with LFC. So I mean, for me, we'll mention.
Yeah.
So we'll mention the L word lingerie because let me tell you something, Miss Blackwell. The black and red was on point in this. We
Yeah.
can talk about the styling and profiling. I got to give you kudos on that lingerie because you were looking
Thank
good.
you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, those were something I threw together. I was like, for me, it was important that I got to pick what I was wearing so I could be comfortable because I am a very shy person. I know it probably doesn't seem like that. Most people are like, but you're in your lingerie and you're on TV. And it's like, I'm actually a very shy person. So I'm proud of my body, but I am also very reserved with my body. So it was important to be able to pick my own outfit so I could be the most comfortable. Although I wish I had picked an outfit that didn't have actual metal boning. Like my lingerie was legitimate lingerie that has like the boning, the metal like pieces in it. So there was like no give. And I found the groundwork so difficult. Trying to do groundwork in that was, I like at one point I had to get up, I had to like turtle roll over and like get on my knees and get up. And I'm like, well, this isn't very graceful, but I wasn't even thinking about any of that in the moment. I was getting more and more angry as the fight was going on because she kept punching me in the face, which the number one rule was no, absolutely no striking above the neck. Because, you know, we're in another country. If somebody gets seriously injured, like it's scary, but we're also there to entertain. So it's like, you know, there's only so many girls working and they need us for more fights. So if you're in the hospital or you're seriously injured, they're not going to have anybody left. So, you know, it's within reason. It's a real fight, but it's within reason. We don't want to kill each other in the ring. Like it's meant to be respectful space. And I felt like with my fight, it was a lot different than a lot of other fights. And I think that maybe that also helped people because I think a lot of people look at it and they're like, oh, it's just fake. My fight was not fake. So I know that from, like from experience from all the hits I was getting. Those were real punches. Like that girl was trying to hurt me in that moment. So, you know, thankfully neither one of us got seriously injured and ended up in the hospital. But yeah, I ended up getting more and more angry the more she was hitting me in the face. And you could see me at one point, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like in the ring, like we know the rules. Like let's respect the rules of the sport. Because to me, even with martial arts, you know, it's very controversial. A lot of MMA fighters are not happy because we're wearing lingerie and they feel like we're not progressing when we do that. We're almost like bringing it back to like we're sexualizing women in MMA and that's not the intention. I think it's, you know, it is like a gimmicky kind of factor, but I think it allows women of all walks of life to be able to have an opportunity that they wouldn't have to go and say like the MMA as like um a top level athlete. You know, a lot of the women come from different walks of life and they have the ability to get in the ring and showcase like they have a passion for wrestling or they have a passion for different types of MMA styles like judo or kung fu or like you know what I mean? So they have the opportunity to showcase that without having to go through the excruciating and very competitive process, I guess, of getting into the MMA specifically, you know? So I think it's really cool in that regard. And I really appreciate it because like I worked in an office for the government. So for me it was like, oof, like this is a tough decision because am I putting my career at risk by, you know, putting lingerie on and going and doing this sport because I work for the government and there's expectations involved with that, right? And then also it was like I didn't want to embarrass my kids. My kids were in their teens, so we had conversations and I was like, "Hey guys, like what are you comfortable with me doing in regards to this?" I sat them down, I kind of explained to them what it was, and they were like, "No, we're good." Like, and I'm like, you know, you might get bullied. So that's the last thing I would ever want, is for you guys to get bullied over something I'm doing because I will be wearing lingerie. I'm not going to be, you know, just a bra and panties. I'm actually going to like make an outfit of it. And they were like, no, we're totally 100% supportive of this. Like we're so excited for you to do this. And I was actually really surprised because they're teenage kids. So at the time they were teenage kids. So I expected I actually expected a little bit of pushback and like absolutely not. Like how don't even think about it. Like we're not dealing with that. They were like, "No, mom, we totally support you. We think this is really cool." So yeah, it was really interesting.
It's crazy you say that because in the States here, there was an episode of True Life on MTV that also, and if you look at it in popular culture as well, it's like
Yeah.
if you see like parents wearing like risque stuff and then the kids are like, whoa. But at the same time, I like that you sat it down with them because I mean, if you look at it from a stance too as well, you think of lingerie, the instant gratification, the instant mindset is, oh, it's like when WWE had the bra and panties matches and here's Tori Wilson,
Yeah.
Dixie Keebler over here. No, a lot of people don't see it for the lens of what it actually is. And I mean, for you, I mean, it's a tough decision going from government work. You're working in an office building, very corporate setting, intimate setting. And then it's like, boom,
Yeah.
I have a chance over here to do some athletics, put on some lingerie,
Yeah.
rock it. As the LMFAO once sang, you're sexy and you know it, but you're going on that
Yeah.
stage here in Las Vegas, Nevada, from Canada to Las Vegas. It's a,
Yeah. That was such a cool experience too.
right.
Like all of it.
It's a transition, but that also brings me to my follow-up question. I'm glad you brought this up, and you with your gimmicky over here. So let me
Yeah.
ask you here. I got to put it over here. The transition from Canada to Las Vegas, the travel, it's a long ass travel, but how was that for you? Because traveling is a part of the game. It's part of the project, if you will.
That's it. That also was another reason why I agreed to join the company because they actually pay for you to go and they pay for your stay and they pay for your training. So it was really there was all of these like check marks of opportunity like to train with people that like we trained in the War Gods gym in Las Vegas. It was hot. I'm like, oh my gosh, like middle of summer, in Vegas is insanely hot. And then we're in this like tin can of a training area. It was very warm, but it was such a cool experience. That was in itself was a cool opportunity. And then we had Caesar Lozano, I think. Mike, I can't remember his last name, was like those were my main coaches. And I loved it. I was getting suplex, like we were practicing things like I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do. Like we did a lot of, and before that even, so let me back up. I'm let me digress a bit.
Huh.
So before that, so my instincts, I grew up getting picked on a lot. So my instincts are to protect myself. Like the minute someone starts hitting me, it's to block and hit and create space. So the one thing I had to learn was how to take a hit without losing my temper. So for about a year and a half, I was doing fight training where I was getting like hit constantly. And Chloe actually trained with me a couple times. And there's like videos of us like in Edmonton training where I'm like picking her up and like we're playing around and it's like a playful setting that at that point no emotions were like high, nobody was annoyed with each other, like it wasn't anything like that. So it was just like a fun experience leading up to that. But even then, um I was really concerned about harming her, like to the point where I was under the hospital because I'm really not I'm not like the fighter personality. I'm more like let's try to like work this out and let's use our words and you know what I mean? So there's that fear in the back of your mind like of seriously injuring someone. So I was actually really happy when they took the no striking in the face out because I mean I've been in situations when I was younger where I put people in the hospital because I black out when I lose my temper. It's not like a and it's not like a quick thing. Like I can take a couple punches before I start feeling myself get angry and then I don't remember and then I'll wake up and the person will be bleeding and then I feel terrible because I'm like, "Oh my God, like I told you I didn't want to fight." Like you know what I mean? Usually when there's like a bullier, like, the dynamic of it, you're the one that doesn't really want to fight because they think it's because you're afraid of them, but it's more or less like, I don't want to hurt you.
Right.
So don't put me in a position to have to harm you. Like, I don't want to do that. And there's been probably about two or three good times in my life where a situation like that occurred and I was put in a position where I had to defend myself and the other person got really injured. So that was a fear. So I was like, okay, I have to learn how to take a punch and not react. So I think a lot of that training definitely helped in the ring. So like in my post, I said like I just had to like center myself and breathe in and just really work on not getting to that place where everything turned into tunnel vision and then just went black. So when I started feeling that happening, during training, Chloe was storming out a lot. She was just not in a good place. I think that it was a lot for her emotionally. So it was really frustrating because, I'm like, hey, we're gonna be on TV. This is a live pay-per-view fight. Like, can we take this seriously? Like, I'm taking it seriously. We're staying in the same room, which also didn't help. So we didn't really get any space from each other. So when we got in the ring and I told her, like, yeah, don't hold back your hitting, like, because I knew she couldn't hurt me because she's much smaller than me. So I knew that she wouldn't hurt me per se, but I also expected her to follow the rules of no striking above the neck. That was the only rule. There's only one rule in LFC. I don't know if that's changed since I had my
No,
fight.
it's the same pretty much.
It
To
is
just
the only rule. It's
yeah.
like there's really no rules, loose MMA rules, but because it is that like because we're wearing the lingerie, so we can kind of get away with doing some things. Like there's things that I didn't agree with that certain like the opposing team was doing, like spitting in the ring. I find that super disrespectful to MMA specifically, but it's the entertainment factor, right? So I had to kind of like take my judgment and hold it to myself and just realize the girls are just putting a show on in that aspect. But for me, it was a tough pill to swallow because, I think that we need to also honor the sport of MMA, regardless of what we're wearing. We need to show the respect and the homage to it. So there's like a couple things. And then, the person I was paired up with wasn't making it an easy situation either. She just, because we're stuck in this circumstance where there's like we're trying to make sure that we're going to keep each other safe while having a fight, like a real fight, and giving a good show and making it entertaining. So there's all these different nuances. Whereas like if it's just an MMA fight, you're going for blood, you're going for the win. You're not trying to draw anything out. So it's like you just get in, you get it done. And I think that's the mindset she came into the ring with, hoping to end the fight quickly. But I was just like, what's going on? Like, you can see me at certain points going like, what are you doing? And like, like holding on to her. And as I'm holding her, I'm like talking to her like, yo, stop hitting me in the face. You're making me very mad right now. Like, you need to quit hitting me in the face. I don't want to black out. You know what I mean? Like, so there's like this, but you don't see any of that because it's all like, the angles, the camera angles. Like, even when I see the fights, I'm like, dope. That fight looked so sick because when you're in the moment, you're not thinking about any of that. You're just moving and reacting. And it's just a really cool experience. Like, I would have loved to do more fights, but all these things started happening that kind of like were barriers to me being able to go back and do it. And I've just, yeah, it was a cool experience. And I think that is a really good platform for women to empower themselves and to just have an opportunity to really challenge themselves mentally, emotionally, physically. It's a really cool company. I think Sean was onto something when he came up with it. So I think that I have such high respect for him because he has to deal with a bunch of women that are that's difficult in itself. You have to try to keep everybody happy. I think it was really difficult to keep Chloe happy that week though, for sure. I think that challenged not just me, but I think maybe other people. And you can hear like I have videos of my castmates, like my teammates essentially. They're all my castmates too, but my teammates in the green room, like upstairs away. I asked them to record some videos so I could show my kids because I didn't really know how I would get my hands on the fight itself, and I wanted to show my kids and my mom and people like that. So you can hear them like choke that bitch. Like they were they were like everyone was kind of fed up with her by the end of that week. So they were like, yes, like you could hear them like really excited, like, oh my God, like she knocked her out for real. Like, oh my gosh, like, because I was just like, I'd had enough. And I was like, okay, that's it. Like, we were trying to make the fight go for 3 rounds, and I was like, I'm not getting hit in the face anymore. Because if that continues to happen, then somebody's going to get seriously injured, and I would hate for that to happen. So I was like, how do I safely end this? What is the best way to do this? And it just happened, like the synchronicity of it all. It was just so fluid, and it looked so beautiful. And it was like no thought involved. It was all just like, okay, it just happened so perfectly.
That's the thing. First of all, choke that bitch chance. Put that on a t-shirt. Hashtag choke that bitch. I,
Yeah.
I gotta say this. What you said it so beautifully. For me, I always think of it from subtlety, intricacies, and nuances. And you talk about safe. One thing I always say to the girls, because myself, Sean, like you mentioned so eloquently, every girl is a unique personality, but that's what makes this company unique. It's safe and spectacular, man. Apply your craft in safe fashion and do it in spectacular fashion as well.
Yeah.
When I watched that fight with you and Chloe, first of all, besides the memory of it, and I could tell, like, first of all, when y'all are doing your ground game here, and then you're coming back, you got this look on your face, like you're just like mad, not just at the world, but you're just like, fuck, like, would she stop fucking hitting me in the face? That was the genuine reaction I got from you when watching that. And then you
Yeah. It's
just
very real. It was very real.
very real.
There
And
was
I'm
no
like,
acting with that. That was just a pure visceral reaction
yeah,
of like, what the fuck are you doing? Like I at one point I think in the video you see me going like, what the fuck are you doing? Like my hair's all crazy. I'm like, what the
yeah,
fuck are you doing? Like quit hitting me in the and then I was like, I'm not afraid of her hitting me, but I'm afraid of losing my temper
right.
because I know the consequences to that. So I was like, okay. And you see me at one point, I had her and I was like, oh, I really wanted to hit her in the face. And then because I had her leg and I was like, let me just get her on the ground and then
Yep.
see what I can do from there. Because you see me hesitate. And it's so funny because a lot of people, where I live, I also do a lot of bartending. So a lot of people know me from bartending and working in the bars. And like they were such supportive people to the fight too. Like they're still fans to this day. They're like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. Like you're so dope. Like just really, I haven't had any really negative. Someone did call me, said I was trans, which that's like no new insult to me. I think people like I have like a very androgynous looking face, and then like the makeup and stuff like played up the character. So I was hired to be a villain, so I was like, let me just get crazy with my hair and my makeup, and I had a really fun hairstyle at the time. So I've the only rude thing, I've had one or two comments where someone was like, "Oh, like you're trans," and I'm like, I'll take that compliment because you know, or like people were like they're fans, so they're like, "Oh." I did have a couple of people though that like I kind of had to write a post on my because I'm like got a lot of attention like you mentioned, and the I get a lot of interesting interactions, but I think the ones I was worried for the most was people kind of looking at the fight and thinking like I could kick her ass. Like that she's not that tough. But they don't realize I was holding back a lot. So it's like I had to write a post and say, "Hey, like this is an entertainment fight. It was for entertainment. In real life, if you come and you test me, I hope you have health insurance, something to the effect of that, because you will end up in the hospital. Like, don't try me." So I had to really like set that boundary because I was getting a couple people saying like, "Oh, Chloe was beating you," and I'm like, that means I did my job. That was the acting part, was acting like she could beat me, acting like, that was the part where the entertainment comes in. Because if it was a real fight, it would have happened a lot differently. Things would have been a way different, right? So my job is to make it seem like this much smaller, younger opponent has the opportunity or the skill set to actually kick my ass. So, like the whole training the year and a half before of like getting hit, getting thrown to the ground and like not reacting. Even when I was Michael Modest, that is my coach's name. Yep. I was like, it just popped in my head. I could picture his face. Um, he I loved it with like I absolutely loved training with him because he was like suplexing me, throwing me around, like, and then I was like, reacting. And then when I was trying to practice, because um I wanted to do a suplex with her in the ring. That's something I wanted to do. We learned this really cool. I wanted to do this really cool move with her, and we were trying to practice it, and she kept storming out because I was hurting her. And I was like, I'm not trying to hurt you, but the more that we do it, the more I can stop reacting naturally. So what was happening is she was suplexing me, but then I was like rolling and like tossing her. That was my immediate reaction instead of just like going into the next move that I wanted to do. And so like I think like when people see the footage of us all training together, they're like, well, wait, is this real? Because you're all training together. How does that work? But they forget the aspect of it being like, yes, this is real MMA, this is a real fight. There's real risk involved, but it's also a show. It's also entertainment. It's also for your pleasure. So like if you put different, weights, classes, abilities in a ring, it's not entertaining if the person who has more ability or a weight advantage or a height, like these different advantages ends the fight in 30 seconds. What's the point of that? You know what I mean? Like we're meant to kind of draw it out and make it fun. So I found it the most challenging because of the whole temper thing. I was like, okay, it's not going to be fun if I like hurt her. I'm going to feel bad. She's going to feel bad. Everyone's going to feel bad. So, and it's not as entertaining when someone's, potentially almost dying in the ring. You don't want that. So, so it's like the respect of the show, the respect of the sport. You're trying to like balance all these different balls in terms of like, how do we respect women's MMA for the women that are in the UFC and doing that and trying to make progress with that? How do we respect them? How do we respect the sport itself? How do we, because, with martial arts, I think a lot of people don't realize that are involved in the LFC that it's about honor. It's about, you know what I mean? Like there's all these different nuances that are involved with MMA specifically. And that's why I had a hard time with the whole spitting in the octagon. I found that super disrespectful. I was like, what the heck? Or the water being thrown on me at the end. I was like,
Yeah. Oh,
I just immediately stopped talking and we wrapped up the interview because I was just like, I can't anymore. Like, I just need to go take a minute.
I don't mean to
Because,
cut
like,
you
the
off.
levels of disrespect, it was just too much happening. And I was at that point just like, no, I need to calm down.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I don't mean to laugh as well because we talk about subtleties, and I have to bring this up. I'm glad that you mentioned that. Your face as well, besides the fight, and we'll talk about the choke in a second, but not even after that, folks. If you watch Kris here and Chloe, you go for the interview. And by the way, shout out to Michael Modest, WCW, Beyond the Mat. Man's a great man and a great teacher and a great
Yeah.
coach. For you, like your face when she just went and just got that water on you, you were just like, and then you dipped, like you were out of there. That's another thing I
I
have.
wanted to hit her.
You
I
were
wanted to hit
your
her.
face. I saw that and I'm like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely that was where it stopped being like entertainment and fun for me because I
Molly
was
Bot.
ready I was ready to fuck her up. At that point because I was so annoyed at that point. All week I was being tested. I was like, like I want to say like she's a sweet person. She's very sweet, but she's also quite a bit younger than me. So like I mentioned, she's almost 21, not quite 21. She was about to turn 21 a week after we left or something like that, if I remember correctly. And I was like 35, turning 36 almost. So like, there's quite an age gap. So it was very frustrating. We shared a room. There was a lot of things happening. So it was like there was no break. And then the fight had happened and I was still like heated from it and I was trying to still be respectful. And then the water. And I mean, entertainment wise, it's great. Everyone loved it. They thought it was wonderful. But I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? So at that point, I was immediately angry again. So I was like, I didn't even have time to calm down, like anger wise from all the stuff that was happening. And like, yeah. So there's just a lot. It was a lot at once. And I was really proud of myself for how I conducted myself. But because, like I said, when I walked out, it was just booing. The minute they said I was fighting out of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, everyone was like, boo. Like I was cheering myself. I was like in the ring, like, I'll cheer for me. That's all. Like even at the end, I was like, yeah, guys, like I'm the winner. Like, yeah. So it was really funny. It was, and then after at the meet and greet, I can't remember. They had it inside the bar that was on site.
Yeah.
Yeah, people that were at the fight came over and they're like, oh my gosh, like I gotta say, I wasn't really a fan but now, whoa, and it was really nice to just interact with people after and just hear like there was a couple women. She still is she follows me on Instagram and we still chat sometimes, but she was just like, oh my God, that was amazing, like that was so cool and I just can't believe that, like you're my favorite fight of the night. And it was just really cool. It was just like a cool experience. So yeah, everything about it was very interesting and very cool and out of my comfort zone, I'll say. So it was challenging in a lot of ways. It helped me to grow in a lot of ways. So
When you talk about it helping you to grow, and I mean, I think what a lot of people enjoy, what I always really like to highlight within this show, within the LFC product, is the internal and external beauty side of things. I mean, we have so
yeah.
many women that we talk about the uniqueness from the mind, body, and the soul. But I mean, for you, and I'll say this right now, first of all, you talk about being 35, 36 at the time. First of all, let's be honest here. Let's put it bluntly here, Miss Blackwell. You still got it going on. You got the
Oh,
tattoos.
thank you.
You're very welcome. You got the tattoos, you got everything that with the aesthetics. Like it's an appealing look and people can gravitate towards. I think that's what everybody needs to look for in entertainment, that gravitational pull, so to speak.
Well, and the thing is that I actually got approached for the another Wolf Cop movie based on my look. Somebody who knew Sean, they were looking for, so they filmed the movie in Saskatchewan, and they were looking for an actress that had like this specific look, this specific energy to her. And they saw my fight and they were like, they wanted me. And I was like, you guys realize like I have like zero acting. Like I'm a government worker. I like literally, I don't want to ruin your movie. Like that was a concern. And they were like, we want you. Like we can send a script over, let us know what you think. And I was like, I got the script and initially it was, I don't know if you said you saw the movie.
I've seen some highlights. I've seen a lot of the punching and the fights and the strikes.
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
that you were doing.
That was also very cool. Like
Right.
so yeah. I mean it was like it's I know this sounds weird to say, but honestly, like glory to God. It's glory to God for all of it because it was like a lot of the right place, the right time. How I met Sean was I was dropping a friend off to interview with him and I had to use the bathroom. And I was introduced to him. I was like, I'm just gonna use the washroom, and because she didn't have an opportunity to get there on her own, so she asked for a ride, and I was like, okay, no problem. And she never ended up joining, and I did, and I just from there it was just like all these different. It was just the synchronicities again, like just the way that it happened, the flow of it, and it's kind of like directed me to what I do now, which is in the entertainment stuff and like writing and yeah, I just find it so interesting because it would like when would I have come across him? He doesn't live in Edmonton. He doesn't, you know what I mean? Like it was just happenstance, and honestly, just it's a gift from God. I always say that. It's just everything that lines up like that, that doesn't really have an explanation. It's just God working through others to get to me, to help me push me out of my comfort zone and place me where he needs me. So yeah.
I gotta say, if you've not seen another Wolf Cop, what I like about it too is besides the fact that the fight scenes are great and you play a great role in it, I think you talk about the subtleties and everything, how God puts things right in front of us from the unique standpoint. I mean, we wake up in the morning, we have our health, and what I love about it too as well is he takes us in different directions and maybe like a step back, but then you get another step forward as one chapter,
Yeah.
one door closes, another one opens, as people say. But it's like if you're really willing to open up your mind, expand your horizons, God is there for you and he puts you in the place you need to go.
Exactly. And he usually pulls you down before he's like slingshots you forward. So there was a lot happening in my life at that point. I never really get into it. I'm a very private person. So I mean I do make reference to it in some of my posts that I post on my Instagram or my Facebook, just because I actually have a diagnosis of CPTSD, which is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And I used to be ashamed to say that, honestly, because you kind of attribute it to people that have like gone to war and seen like horrific, horrendous things. So it took me a long time to be able to say that without feeling embarrassed by it, which is crazy to say because it's not even something that I want, right? It's something that is occurred over an extended period of time based on the way I grew up and just life in general. So, yeah, I was actually dealing with quite a bit during that fight. I was actually off of work because it was at that point in my life, a lot of things were kind of like overflowing in terms of like anxiety and flashbacks. And that's when about 2 years after that is when I got, well, actually, no, sorry, I'm misrepresenting. I would say the year of the fight, like, because I signed up to do LFC a year and a half before my fight actually happened. And so around that time is when all of the things started happening. And then in January of 2015 is when I was diagnosed with CPTSD. And I was dealing with a lot of, it's weird to say mental health issues because it didn't feel like that at the time. It was just this overwhelming inability to regulate my emotions because of years of pushing the emotions away and not feeling them. I never learned how to process emotions properly. So all of these emotions were screaming to be heard and they wanted my attention and I didn't know how to process them. So I would just cry and I'm not a crier. And like so, it was really difficult. So I ended up having to go on a medical leave from work. So when I did my fight, it was difficult because I was on an actual medical leave, but I was trying, something pushed me to do the fight. I knew that I could lose my job from doing it. And it really came down to like, am I okay with this completely changing my path in life potentially in a negative way? In my mind, it was negative because like who wants to lose their career? They've been doing it for 14 years. They went to school for, they owe thousands of dollars for training for. Like there was a lot of risk. It wasn't just in the ring, it was in my personal life. And it's I don't think people realize like it's not like we're making millions here doing these fights. I don't have like a security team. Like there's all of these different things that come into play. Like I've had stalkers since I've had people like I said, I bartend. So I've had people, I'm coming home at 3:34 in the morning after a shift at work and I've had people follow me and as I'm coming home and that's really scary. And you get interesting interactions, lots of different interesting interactions. And I always try to be polite and kind, but sometimes you have to be firm. Like I said with the post that one time, I had to be like, "Hey, I know y'all are thinking some kind of way, but like in real life, I fight to win, and you will get hurt. So please don't even think of like hurting me or my kids, because then we're gonna have real problems. So it's all for entertainment, guys. Remember, it's all fun and games, but and then you get the people that I've had people come up to me and they like my son will be out with me. So my son is 25 now, my daughter's 21 now. But so when he turned 18, I worked in the bars. So, in Edmonton, it can be a little unsafe for a gentleman to go out, unfortunately. So I was concerned about him going out on his own. And he was like, Mom, I'd really like you to come out with me. And I was like, okay, are you sure? Like I can bring you to a safe place. I can introduce you to the owners and the security team and like we can do it that way. He's like, no, I want to do it with you. I want to go with you. And I was like, okay. So there's times where he's been out with me and people just come up like, Kris, oh my God, Craven, or like, and they're just talking to me like we're friends and we've known each other for years and years, and I don't know these people. I've never met them in my life. So I try to be very like, oh, like, like, thank you, disengage. But my son doesn't pick up the cue that like we don't know these people because I'm being polite back. So I've had to have conversations with him and be like, hey, like you can't be inviting them to come hang out with us for the rest of the night. Like those aren't my friends. So like it's been like there's been a couple of awkward situations. He's like, Mom, I thought you knew that guy, like, or I thought you knew that girl because they were the way they were talking to you. It's like they know you, and I'm like, it's honestly just whatever they perceive from social media. So like you have to be so cautious because, like I said, I've had really scary circumstances where people will like follow me in vehicles home, and that was really scary for me actually because it's like 3:30, 4 in the morning. I'm driving towards my house, and I'm driving with conviction. We'll say that. And there's a vehicle, like a giant black truck following me turn for turn. And I'm recognizing like, okay, what's going on here? Because I don't live close to where the bars are. I live, in like family neighborhood type place. So I was like, okay, is that person following me? So then after a few quick turns, I realized they're actually following me. So I started driving towards the police station because that was something that just stuck with me. Like if someone's following you, don't drive home.
The
Go
police.
to
Yep.
Yeah, so I started driving towards the police station, and when they realized that, all of a sudden on my Instagram, or no, it was my Facebook. Yeah, it was my Facebook, went off. Hey, that's me following you in the truck. And I was like, okay, a couple thoughts.
Whoa.
It was like somebody who was on my, yeah, it was somebody that was on my friends list. But see, the thing with Facebook, this is why I prefer Instagram. With Facebook, you have to accept them as a friend in order for them to see your stuff
Yeah.
and engage with you. Instagram, you don't have to follow people back. You can just follow the people you know or you're comfortable following, or like it's more up to you, and you don't have to engage if you don't want to. And I think it's more of like a boundary for me. It's more comfortable. This was on Facebook, and after my fight, thousands of people friend requested me, and I was just like took my kids' pictures down before they turned 18. I had nothing of my kids on there really. And then I accepted people because I didn't want them to find out, you know, my real last name, because my real name is Kris, but my last name is different. I didn't want them to find out where I lived. I was trying to protect myself and my kids because, like I said, we're not making millions. We don't have security detail for people that are super fans essentially, which is very cool. Like I love that I have fans, but it's like with everything you have to be respectful of the boundaries involved. You can't just like follow me home. That's totally inappropriate. You can't grab me like you know me in public and keep touching me. Like there's physical boundaries you have to respect. There's like social boundaries you have to respect. So it was pretty scary. And I think that I never thought that anything like that would happen. So that was really interesting for me. I was like, whoa, like this is out of my comfort zone, but I know that I can handle it appropriately. I didn't engage with the person. I didn't like feed into it. I generally I know it's difficult for people who actually want to work with me and do projects with me because I don't necessarily see all of my messages either. That's the other difficult thing. My inbox gets inundated to the point where like things get buried. So even for the movie, they went through Sean to get my information. And Sean was like, hey, are you okay with me giving your information? Because like I don't know if they tried to reach out some other platform or not. And I just didn't see it, but it's very difficult. So yeah, I'm like, okay, how do I I think even for you it was difficult to like it's hard for me to see my messages. And then when I want to respond, it's like I have to search through hundreds of messages to do it because I'm like, oh, where did that message go? And then I have to like it's very difficult. So it's not to be rude, but it's also like it's overwhelming because we're not equipped to deal with all of it after the fact. Like you don't do the fight thinking like, oh, I'm gonna be famous. Like I don't even feel like I'm famous now. So it's always weird when people recognize me or start talking to me, and I'm always just polite and kind. Like I treat people how I want to be treated. I've always been that way. And I think I do my best not to encourage them to continue to like try to have a rapport with me. Like if somebody compliments me and I'm out and we're drinking or like there's an atmosphere where like boundaries maybe don't seem so bright, so they're like, oh, okay, well they'll grab me, and I don't like to be touched. I was kidnapped when I was little, so I don't like people coming up from behind me grabbing me. So I have like all of these things that are from my CPTSD, and it's like I don't like if someone comes up behind me, I get really like I don't like it.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of people come up and strongly grab me on the shoulder and be like, Craven or Kris, and then I'm like, okay, like, and I'll disengage and be like, oh, like then they start talking. And so I try to create physical space, and it's something that I think that is I've gotten better at. So before I would kind of jerk and be like, and then they would feel bad, and I wasn't trying to make anybody feel bad because I knew they were just excited to actually like see me and interact with me and just to talk to me. And I don't think there's any harm in that. But definitely with the physical boundaries, I don't like people touching me that I don't like touch first, or if I don't, you know what I mean? So like I'm a hugger. I love hugging people, but I won't hug my fans because I don't want them to get the wrong impression, and I don't want them to feel like it's okay to just come up and start touching me. It's so because I like I said, don't have a security team. I just have to appropriately disengage and handle and keep them a fan. So it's like this really interesting balance. So it's taught me a lot of things for sure.
Just put it out there because, as she did mention, first of all, and I've told you this, Kris, I'm glad that we are getting to do this interview, number one, because you do.
Yeah.
I'll say this: you are the bomb. I will say this right outside of
Thank you.
books. Kris, you are probably one of the sweetest people I know, and I say that with the utmost sincerity and respect
Well,
to
I
you.
appreciate that.
You're very welcome. I was gonna say, if you wanted to, I'll put it like this, folks. I was gonna make a joke and said that you were dissing me by not answering my messages. Big league in me. I see how it is. No, I'm kidding. But
No.
no, but I mean, it's one of those things too as well. When you have some sense of limelight, and like you talk about with the fight and everything, people are just gonna come out there in droves, so to speak. Like you talk about, like stalking and stuff. Like you don't realize like the impact you have with what you do as like a talent, as someone who can be in some sort of limelight, the entertainment aspect, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but at the same time, I think you took the necessary acts, the necessary, stuff that you needed to do. And I find that not only admirable, but commendable because a lot of people do it with respect, class, and dignity. And that's, I think, yeah, you have to look at them. So I think you handled yourself very well in those situations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was interesting. It's been an interesting journey. Not any of it that I didn't even think of any of this. Like, you don't fathom. You just are like, this seems like it'd be really cool. I want to travel. Because I was like, God, I really want to start traveling more, but how am I going to do that? And then the opportunity came where it was like, we fight, but we don't fight here. We fight in the States and we're trying to fight in other places. And I was like, wow, okay. And then you do a cost risk analysis, like, am I compromising my morals or values in any way by wearing lingerie? And that was one of my questions to Sean. I said, okay, because I'm like, laundry, like, so do you guys pick the outfits or do I get to choose what I wear? And he was like, you pick what you want to wear. You provide your own stuff. And I was like, perfect. This is perfect because I wore more in the ring than I wear on the beach. I wear a bikini on the beach, loud and proud with, mom tummy and everything. I don't care. But I'm like, if I'm going to be in front of millions of people, I'm going to make an outfit of it. Like I had a really cool, like in the poster pictures, I had this like vest that had little spikes on it and stuff. Like I had like a whole thing, but I was like, oh, it's real metal. It's real. It's not like plastic. It's not like this is the shawl, I guess you could call it. It's like a $200 shawl. It's leather. It's got like spikes on it that's made from like actual, like, you know what I mean? So I was like, oh, I don't want to wreck it in the ring. Like, because we're wrestling around and we're fighting and like I also didn't want to wreck my stuff. So if I had had the opportunity to do more fights, I would have loved to. So I was dealing with the CPTSD stuff and then I had a car accident and then I had another car accident and I've just started healing from my last car accident. So that was actually funny because in 2018 I told Sean like, hey, I'm ready to start coming back. And then I got in a major car accident, a gigantic tractor in the middle of winter flew backwards into my vehicle and caused my whole left side of my body to get damaged. I still deal with some issues with it. And I just recently started having the opportunity to do exercise without my ribs popping out. So that was like a huge thing. And I was like, I can't safely, like I had messaged with Sean a few times because he kept sending me, God bless his soul, he kept sending me information about like, you get like, hey girls, we're going to be doing this lineup. Here's what we're hoping to do. What are you available for? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I would love to get back in the ring and do these things. So the emotional stuff I had packed on weight because when you're in a high stress state of mind all the time, your body builds this hormone. It's like a cortisol hormone, and it's a survival hormone. And unfortunately, that survival hormone causes you to retain weight because it thinks, you're in survival mode. So you may not get food, you may not, you know what I mean? So even though I'm eating healthy and I'm doing all the things, I'm like getting all this weight and I'm just like, what is going on with my body? And my body just felt like foreign to me. It wasn't cooperating with me. And then when I got to a mental state where I was processing all this trauma out and my body was like, the levels got back down to normal, hormonally, they were getting to normal. And I was actually just like getting back to feeling healthy, feeling strong. And then the car accident happened, the major one. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, Sean, I would love to still be involved, but I don't know how safe it would be because I have injuries that I'm dealing with and I don't want to put myself or anyone else at risk. And he was like, totally understand, reach out when you're feeling better. And it's been like almost 5 years. And like I said, I just started being able to do even just like body weight exercises without my ribs popping in and out of place and causing soft tissue damage and then causing me to have to go to the chiro and the physio and the massage therapist. And it's just like, I'm so grateful. Like you have no idea. I was having a conversation the other day with somebody and they were like, how's your workout journey, your fitness journey going? And I was like, oh my God, I'm so grateful to God at this point, like to be able to go and do something like a push-up or like 10-pound weights and not feel something pop out of place is amazing. It feels so good. And I'm like so excited to get back to this place of feeling strong and healthy again because even though I felt healthy, it's like I don't feel strong. I feel like my body's fighting me. And I'm like, okay, can we all just get along? I just want us to be able to go to the gym and lift some weights and like, have a good time because I want to be able to go back into the gym and do some boxing or do some MMA because that's actually stress relieving for me. So it helps my CPTSD symptoms to stay like at a nice level where where it's not affecting me negatively. So it's like difficult to find an outlet that works because honestly, sometimes you just want to go beat the shit out of something. You have a hard day, your kids stress you out, or things are going on, and you just want to go and punch a punching bag or throw somebody around, and you can't even do that. Like it hurts you to do a push-up. It's so discouraging. So it's cool to be back in a place where I'm like, I feel normal. So now I'm like, okay, nowhere to go but up at this point. Like now I can start like building and doing what I want to do with myself and my body because I've emotionally done everything I need to do, spiritually done everything I need to do. Now it's my body that needs to get in line. So now that that's cooperating, it just feels really amazing. It's such a relief.
Yeah, to say first and foremost, put that also on a t-shirt. Now, sometimes you got to beat the shit out of something. I like your style. I
Yeah.
got I gotta put this bluntly. First and foremost, I'm glad that you're here with everything with the accents that you're here. You're here with us. And I
Yeah.
gotta say, prayers and love.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But that's the amazing part of it too, man. No matter whatever topsy-turvy thing that we go through. I mean, I could see like we talk about the external factor. You look good. I could tell that you're getting there and you're going to continue to get there within your journey, onward and upward, as they say. And I gotta say, if you ever do come back to LFC, there's a lot of great talents that just came in, like Holly Dunaway, four-time kickboxing champion,
Yeah.
and many people. Like there's so many different challenges for you, man. I can't wait, and I hope to see you back in the future, Kris.
Yeah, you never know what the future holds. Only
Absolutely.
time will tell. So you never know. You guys might see me in the ring. I mean, I'm 43. I'm going to be 43 next, 44 in April. So, I definitely am not getting any younger, but I'm always open to new things and like to, things that were always like fruitful and helped me to grow and weren't negative. I'm always open to obviously revisiting. So right now I just got to work on getting my body where I need it to be in terms of fitness and ability to like lift heavy things because I can't go and throw girls around if I can't even do push-ups. So so I gotta get all that under control. But you never know. Never say never, right?
Oh, and absolutely not. And I think also you added a lot of great things too. Like, and I'm actually the same way. And I love that you brought this up in today's forum. Like when I was a kid, like first of all, bullied out the wazoo, folks. I was the kid that so my had cousins that worked at a deli, right? I was like the cold
Yeah.
cuts kid. You give me some like ham, bologna, and cheese or something, man. That's a sandwich. That's a good day for like a
I
second,
love a sandwich, yeah.
right? Here's the thing though, I would get made fun of that and stuff. And even if you like something that other people don't like, we have it today in today's society. I mean, cyberbullying has stepped up, unfortunately, but in a day and
Yeah.
age, you deal with verbal abuse. So I remember like fourth grade, I got into this thing with this kid because we were playing soccer on the field. It was during a recess, and he kept going like up here. Like I had to keep ducking, and I'm like, So I remember tackling the kid to the ground, and I remember crying for it because I'm just like, all right, kid deserved it, number one, but also number two, I don't want to hurt this person. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then in sixth grade, like a kid stole my notebook, like, and he was playing around with it, but I'm like, all right, it's not fun anymore. So I grabbed him around like almost like a choke kind of deal, and we went back and hit a desk, and I felt
Yeah.
horrible. like horrible. So I agree with you, and I see from that stance too as well. Because when you're a person who's nonviolent like yourself, we try to get along, we try to be cohesive, which is how it should be. It's like, man, like fuck, like you don't want to put yourself into a situation where either you're angry, you get violent, and then it takes up to a level that you don't want to see it. And I mean, back to the
Yeah.
and I mean, back to the fight for a second, man. Like when you're like angrily, like doing your hair and twisted it up like you did, like after the, we're gonna point this
Yeah.
out here, folks, because
Yeah.
man, like you
I
tied
was doing some deep breathing in the corner. I was like,
your
calm down. Yeah, I was trying to calm my nervous system down so much at that point.
You mentioned like the comments, Kris. Like it's amazing to see. And first of all, with LFC, we love our comments, phones. We love the feedback, and we thank you for watching. But god dang
Yeah.
it, man, like one of the things that happened on your fight was at the end. Not only do you choke Miss Chloe out here, but god dang, man, like the kick is what does it for me, folks. When she's choking her she's choked out, you kicked her off, and everybody was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's great sportsmanship. You just kick her off." I'm like, well, what do you expect? Like you're there and you're trying to get
Yeah.
out of the way. Like the kick is what does it. Like the kick after you choke her out is just like, whoa. That's also I have to bring up because that was an integral part of the fight as well.
Yeah, I definitely was like, just get the fuck off me at this point. Like, I'm
That's
done
where
with
we
this
were
fight.
at.
I like picked my wedgie out of my butt because my underwear was, my butt was eating my underwear. I'm like, oh, this is lovely. Here I'm picking my wedgie out of my baby booty. And that they captured that. They kept that angle. That's great. But you just see me like huff off, and I was just like, calm down, calm down, calm down. And like even my face, I was like shocked when she went out so quickly. I didn't realize I was like holding her when I had her when she was on her four, like on all fours. I knew I had her shoulder, but I didn't realize I was like putting pressure on her neck. So that's why she went out so quick. So everyone's like, "Oh, she went out so quick. That can't be real." And I'm like, I think I was choking her when I had her because I have the thing about me is I sometimes forget my own strength when I'm angry, which was part of the problem with the training. Like I was getting worked up. I was getting like, for me, it wasn't like I was angry. I was like excited. I was like, oh, I love this shit, And like at one point, Michael and I banged heads, and he was like, ow, and I was like, oh, are you okay? He's like, are you okay? Like he was because he like headbutted me right in the middle of my forehead
Ooh,
with I think his jaw or his face, and he's a big guy. Like he's not a small guy. So he had suplexed me, and then I didn't roll properly to recover from it. And then I went forward because, like I said, my initial reaction is to attack. And so I had gone up instead of back like I was supposed to. And so he was coming in and I was going up and we just like smashed. And he was like, oh my God. He's like, ow. And he was like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm fine. Are you okay? And he was like, yeah, that was hard. Are you sure you're okay? I'm like, yeah, let's keep going. Like, I love this shit. It's like it's exciting. It feels great. It's like a really good workout. Like, I don't know, like for me, it's just fun. And who knows, like if I had ran into Sean like 20 years ago and he was doing this, maybe I'd be in a different place now. Maybe I would have done hundreds of fights at this point. I'm not really sure, but like just even the opportunity to do the one was just such a really cool experience, and I'm so grateful. And like I said, I always have so much respect for Sean, and he was so supportive of my movie. Came to the premiere when it premiered in Edmonton. They had like a premiere, and that was like just all of it was just it's just been a really surreal experience, and it's been really cool, and it actually helped open doors for me that I've always been passionate about writing, and like I love movies, like they were my escape. I love books. I love getting lost in people's imagination. So for me it was really cool that it's like led me down that path because I was so focused on just existing and like doing the 9 to 5 and like the pension and all the good stuff. So I was like, that was my focus. I wasn't really focused on having fun and like enjoying the process of being an adult. Most of us, we're just adults and we go and we do what we have to do to survive, and 9 times out of 10 you don't really love what you're doing. It's like you feel like you're selling your soul. You're like, that's how I was feeling at work because you hit your ceiling of growth, and it's like you can't grow any farther than that, and then you have to make a decision. You stay here feeling this way, or you retrain within the same scope and you kind of like shift around, because I worked in healthcare, so it's like the health field, so there's all these different things I could have done, or I just got like thrown into the entertainment aspect of life, and it just seemed like such a good fit. It was just so comfortable, and it was just like I felt alive for the first time in a really long time, and it was just such a really interesting, cool experience. So I'm always forever grateful. And like Sean is just an amazing human being too. I think he gets a lot of flack. He's pretty misunderstood. And I think when people get an opportunity to meet him, they just realize like he's just a guy that he's literally living his dream out. Like he has this vision for himself, and he just continues to pursue it to make it happen. And we all kind of got dragged into its orbit, all of us fighters and the people who work for LFC and stuff like that. And it's just like, I don't think anything bad has really ever come out of it from the best of my knowledge that I know personally. So, I've never heard any poor reviews about working with him or what that experience is like. So I think it's just a really cool, like I said, really cool platform. And I have a lot of respect for him and the way he handles himself and conducts himself, even though he gets a lot of pushback. So yeah, it's always interesting.
I can see that as well. And I will say this, besides doing this and even before this, Sean has always treated me with the utmost sincere respect, and I'm grateful for the platform. I look at it
Yeah.
with Sean's standpoint, and I say this bluntly about Sean. Here's what I like about him. Professional as far as if you're nice to him, he'll be nice to you back because that's how it works. It's a two-way street, right? But if
Yeah.
you're I'm gonna be a dick back to you if you want to like clap back, if you will. So there's that element to it as well. Unfortunately, it's like, and I say this in life, and I think you can concur with me on this, Kris. If you have the ability to be nice and put that good energy into the universe, into the world, what have you,
Yeah.
life's too short to be a dick, to put it bluntly. It's like, why would you want to put that
100%.
energy out there, right?
100%. And I feel like I believe like I've affirmed I'm deeply rooted in my relationship with God. And like that's why it's so important. I treat people how I want to be treated. And I think the key to that is not taking things personally that other people do. Like I could have totally personalized what was happening in the ring and been like, oh my God, Chloe is like such a bitch. What the fuck is wrong with her? Like, I could have all of these things could have happened. I didn't do that. I was like, what the hell's going on with her? And then I was like, that's not my business. Right now, all I have control over is me and how I'm going to handle this. And like, I just need to center myself. And all of those years of therapy for the CPTSD came in handy too, because they really taught me how to ground myself within my body. One of the things with it is I dissociate from my body. So I don't feel pain. I don't feel like I completely dissociate. Like you could be cutting my leg off and I might laugh and think like, okay, you're gonna fucking die now. You know what I mean? Like I completely dissociate from any of my senses in terms of like what's happening outside of me and keeping myself safe. So for me, I was like learning how to ground myself back into my body helped me not to lose my temper, helped me to, that training beforehand. Um, I had a lot of friends that were actually like fighters, like they do the fighting here in Canada. So like they offered to train me for free because like I'm a single mom on a budget and like I said, we're not rolling in the millions here. Like, and there's only so much that can be done. Like a lot of it is up to us. At the time, I don't know if it's changed, but at the time it was like up to us to kind of like hone our skill on our own time, on our own funds and things like that. So I was blessed enough to have a lot of people in my life that were like, come to the gym, like I'll train you for free. I like no problem. And so like I had the opportunity to do all these things. So like I don't have like 100% skill set in certain things. I have like skills, a set of skills to a degree in different forms. And I gotta say, like, jujitsu is my favorite. I love it. I don't know why. I don't know why. I just love it. I love the fact of it's almost like a chess game, I feel like, when you're doing jujitsu because it's a lot of groundwork and it's a lot of holds and it's a lot of like close contact. Whereas like Muay Thai, it's like you want to create space, but you still can like hold. And like jujitsu, you're bringing them in, like you're getting them close to you so you can hurt them. So it's like it's more my fighting style. I feel my natural fighting style. Like I have no problem. I'll force my way to your space and I will take a few hits. Like that's my natural way of fighting. If I'm to get in a fight, someone approached me on the street and tried to fight me, I'm going to get as close to you as possible. And if I have to take a couple of punches to the face or whatever, I'll take them. I don't care. But the minute I get my hands on you, you're in trouble. Like that's how I am in real life. So I think that's probably why I just love it so much. Like it's my favorite one to practice. But I haven't had an opportunity to like seek it out and get like all my belts and things like that. So I've just had friends that are fighters and they're like, come and we'll train and we'll do this and we'll do this. Okay. Like so it was like really cool. I got all these opportunities where my friends were like, let's get you ready for this fight. We want you to look good. Like I'm like, me too. I don't want to go there and look stupid, like, because especially when they took the rule away of like no striking in the face, it's like, okay, how do you how do you have a fight and make it entertaining without striking someone? Like that's the first thing you're going to do in a real fight is you're going to try to knock them out or you're going to, you know what I mean? Like that's the most damaging areas from here to here. So I was like, it was very interesting. All of it was very fun.
And jujitsu being such an art form, and like you mentioned, it's like chess, and the hold and the finishing is the checkmate. And I mean, if you
Mhm.
analyze, dissect, and decipher anything in life, I mean, I also was very like you brought up the rule, like you take away the strike to the face, like here in the grill, up and all up in here. It's one of
Yeah,
those things where it's like you have to be creative and like you mentioned, how can I make this entertaining? How can I use holds and ground game and everything from this area
yeah.
to make this entertaining? So it's a challenge, but it's a challenge worth taking.
Yeah, and so like there's a lot of moments in the fight where I kind of like acquiesce and I'm like, okay, I want this to look good, so I'm gonna let it look like you're able to, flip me over. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like if I really didn't want to be flipped over, of course it wouldn't have happened. I'm heavier than her. I'm bigger than her. It would have been more of a struggle. It would have been but it looks great when the small fighter on underneath can like flip over the bigger opponent. Like of course, like so there's these moments and I think like that's like the controversy with any sport that's not like considered a real sport. Like UFC is considered a real fight because there's blood. And the thing is, like, I don't know, like, I think I accidentally punched Chloe in her mouth at one point because she had blood in her mouth. Um, and I felt bad after. I was like, hey, are you okay? Like, she's like, yeah, no, that was great. Like, she was really hyped. And she was like, she played it off like, oh, you didn't actually like knock me out. Like, she was telling that to the castmates, and they were like, okay, like, we all saw. And she was like, no, no, I was just, and they were like, yeah, no, you were like out. And so, like, I think to save face, she was kind of like, oh, yeah, no, like, I played it up. And I was like, oh, whatever makes you feel better. Like, I really don't care at that point. It was just like, the whole thing was just interesting. And I was just like, okay, I'm done with this week. And then yeah, it was just like, I just took all the little silver linings and like really big on that in life. Like, you can't necessarily control what's happening or how it's going to happen, but there's always something beautiful that comes from it. So focus on that. Focus on the beauty of it. Like I focused on the fact that we got to train in the War Gods gym, which is where Mike Tyson did some training. Like that was super cool. Amazing. Like, then we had all these trainers come in. Like you know what I mean? I got a free trip to Vegas. We were training all week, so I didn't really have time to do anything. I'm not a big drinker partier because it's not really my jam. I love dancing, but like out of respect, because I was sharing a room with Chloe, I wasn't going to just ditch her. So we spent time just walking and like doing things like that, and she couldn't gamble or anything. So I think that just affected her mood more while we were there. I can't really speak to her mindset and her mood while we were there. But she was definitely from a receiving end. I think I'll speak for me from a receiving end, it was like she wasn't happy that week at all, and she wanted everyone to know that she wasn't happy. So it was there. That's why I think there was such a loud cheer from the green room in my videos. It's so funny when I post them on like my stories quickly or whatever, because I don't really post them on the wall of my stuff because I'm like, it's just like a funny moment in this like serious, serious thing that happened where they're like, choke that bitch. Like everyone was just so happy that she like, got the like I don't want to say put in her place, but like, that she got humbled a little bit, I guess, in that moment. Cause she was like, yeah, I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna like, and I'm like, yeah, like, bring it. Like I'm not concerned about you like harming me. And I think that maybe I don't know if that triggered her to be like, oh, I'm going to hurt you now because you think I can't hurt you. So I'm going to do my best to hurt you. And I think she definitely tried her best to hurt me in the fight. And it ended up doing was making me more and more and more frustrated and angry. So I was like, we really wanted the fight to go 3 rounds. And I was like, nope, absolutely not. We're not doing that anymore. Like, we're done. Like, we're fucking done. Like, this is the end of it. So yeah, I was a little disappointed. I gotta say, I would love to bring it to 3 rounds. I think that would have been amazing, but I was just like, safety wise, I need to like we gotta finish this up. So Sean had even pulled me aside at one point because of her behavior during training, and was like, Kris, if she's acting like this in the ring, if she starts acting like do what you need to do to finish the fight as quickly as possible. And I think that was like stuck in my head when I did what I did because he was like very seriously like, hey, this is a live TV fight and we can't have any of this stupid shit happening. Like if she is doing anything that is like, not okay or like you can end the fight. You have my permission to do what you need to do to finish her. And I was like, okay. So that was like in the back of my mind. I think that also helped because I was like, you're not really thinking. You're in the ring and you're just letting your skills take over and you're letting your reflexes take over. You're not thinking like, oh, okay, she's gonna do this and then I'm gonna do this. Like you're not, it's not like that. It doesn't like, it's like when you're in a real fight in real life, you're like, you're not thinking about like, oh, if this guy punches me, I'm gonna dodge and then I'm gonna uppercut him. Like it doesn't happen like that. Like you really just have to go off of what's happening in the moment and then react to it in the moment. So yeah, it's just I always laugh. I always just laugh about it because it's like I hear all kinds of stuff and I just take it in stride and I'm just like, okay, okay, like for the first little while, everyone's like, "Oh my God, like you're a horrible fighter. I could kick your ass." And I was like, "No, no, we're not going to do that." And then it was, you know, I'm so like that was so sick and like, wow, you're badass. And then it's like, so it's mostly good. I get mostly good, and I just find it really surprising because it's been we're in what, 8 years almost, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, and I still get a lot of love for it, and it's so crazy to me because it's such a it was like such a blip, and there was so much chaos in my life at that time that nobody really knows about except for like my kids. And so it's always interesting to see and it's just such a beautiful moment. And it's like it's literally immortalized now. It's something that was so beautiful and so transformative for me and it's immortalized forever. Like literally and it's out of my like I would never post it like that and like because I don't post things for people to approve of it. It's just like a fun moment. And so when I get all these edits and people like do these really creative cool things and they'll like add their own music and they'll and I'm like how do you do that, like that's so cool, it looks so cool. And I'm just like I'll just repost. I'm like thank you so much for sharing, that's such a cool video, like you know. And it's just and I get still get people come up to me and say nice things and I definitely am not a hugger to the fans but I definitely will have a conversation and you know just be really grateful. So I think the energy of it all is just very it's like this beautiful energy, nothing really negative. I don't think I've ever had like even the whole the comment about me being like trans. I'm just like how is that insulting though? Like I feel like there's so many beautiful trans people out there, but so like okay, I'll take it. Like if you think like oh you're a man and that's why you beat her, like okay. Like I know what it is. God knows, like God made me, he knows what it is. So I'm just like and like it's just funny, it's funny how people have these theories and they just and I notice like people will say outlandish things because they hope to get your attention that way, and I'm more likely to respond to you if you're kind. I won't delete comments. I've never deleted like negative comments or anything like that, but I just always respond with kindness. And I literally, if someone's being inappropriate, I just don't respond at all because I feel like if I feed into it, I'm just feeding that negative energy, and it's worked for me so far. Like, it just never really had a bunch of negatives, so it's very it's like yeah, it's just all very humbling. Like I don't like I said, I don't feel very interesting. I don't feel like I'm an interesting person. I'm just like a regular gal who got an amazing opportunity to try something outside of my comfort zone, totally foreign to me. And it was this really cool, amazing, fun experience.
It was probably the best way to sum up the bout, folks. It's a kerfluffle mixed with mollywhopping at the same time. But god dang it, it's
Yeah.
such a great memory that will live on in the infamousy of LFC history. And I do have one final question before we close this out. First and foremost, I am so glad we got to do this. I've been
Yes, me too.
It's been such a pleasure to hear your story, and I got to say you are a very inspiring and very admirable person who I can't wait to see where
Thank
life
you.
takes you on your next journey. So you're very welcome. Couple final
Glory to God.
Absolutely. That's the beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Glory to God. Yes. Last thing I got to add, because it's probably one of the funniest doggone videos on the LFC YouTube channel, folks. Coach Joe Kane comes in. It's the night before the fight. You and Chloe are in the room together. Joel Kane decides, hey, man, let's have a pep talk before this. Now, mind you, he was not your
Yeah.
coach. That was the distinction of Michael Modest.
Yeah.
Joel's like, hey, sex before the fight. You got to do
Yeah.
it. What's up? So, can we just talk about that day? Because it's probably one of the funniest scenes leading up to a fight. Because he just comes right in there. Hey, I hear
Yeah.
have some sex before a fight. Talk about that interaction.
I mean, honestly, like I've like I think I had a post interview with Sean and I was like I think I've heard the opposite of that, like you're not supposed to. It's kind of like with sports, you don't bang before you get on the court, like it's just not the best plan. But I think he was playing up because Chloe, I don't know if she still is, but at the time she was like bisexual. So she was like she's like oh she had a crush on one of our castmates actually. So that was really funny seeing them interact. They would look like they would make a great couple. But I think like Joel kind of picked up on that and he was like, how can I use this to my advantage? So I think he was hoping to plant the seed to try to like, to get us to be like more comfortable just so that there could be like a tiff and we could get like into a fight more and like it be more passionate in the ring. And I was just like, yeah, no, I think I'm good on that front. I'm just gonna take my coach's advice, which is like feed and water myself, hydrate and sleep good, so that I'm ready for tomorrow and ready to kick butt. But yeah, even him just coming in and saying that, I was like, okay, you could see my face. I'm just like, okay, sure. Yeah, probably not gonna happen.
That's
Like
it was hilarious.
I was just shocking. I was like, oh, that's what we're doing now. Okay. We're doing night calls and being like, hey girls, it's okay to bang. Like, nah, no, I'm good.
I just put on some George Michael, I Want Your Sex, and then boom, right before the fight, there you go.
Right? Yeah, I was so frustrated at that point. I didn't I would it would have been some hate sex if it was gonna happen. It was not gonna be it wasn't gonna be a fun time, a romantic setting. It would have not been, yeah, it wasn't gonna happen. So I'm just glad. I'm grateful I had Mike for my coach. 100%.
Over sex, I love that. So number two, that is the perfect definition of what we call a hate bang, folks. Dare I
Yeah.
say bang? Oh my goodness! But what we do not hate and what we do love is this show. And I gotta say, for you, Miss Kris Blackwell, I'm gonna say the overtures here. Anytime you want to come back on, you're more than welcome as well.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And now you aren't on social media. Do you want to promote the Instagram, the TikTok? This is where I step back. Where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me on Instagram or TikTok at like at sign Craven_B, and then Kris Blackwell on Facebook. But I don't really add anyone on there. I'm not really on there. So if you want to see my stuff, I mostly post on Instagram. I'm trying to come to the TikTok. Yeah, gotta get out of my comfort zone for that one. But you can always follow me on there, and hopefully I'll have some content on there eventually.
And I will say this, and I'm going to put some emphasis on this, folks. She is a very interesting follow, and you should definitely check out Kris Blackwell on the Instagram thing because you do have a lot of great footage on there, and I will put that
Well,
away.
thank you.
You're welcome. Now, if you want to check this out, folks, what the hell are you doing? Because this is LFC. It's Lingerie Fighting Championship. It's LFCfights.com. You could check out all the events, including this one over here, LFC 20, A Midsummer Night's Dream, Molly Whopping, and just going to the floor, choke style, baby. And you can check out this show, LFCfights.com, on the VIP section on the LFC network on Roku, listening to Hoku, another dumb blonde. I digress. You can check out LFC Fights_fights on the Twitter, Fights_LFC on Instagram, and LFC Fights on the Tickety Talk, where you could see the video as well that I put up of Miss Kris Blackwell and Lady Killer Chloe Cameron from the LFC YouTube. It's a beautiful thing. Give us a follow on all the social medias. As I say with each and every show, life is an art form, and we are all applying our crafts and continue to apply your craft in amazing fashion. That applies to you, Miss Kris Blackwell. And as I always say as well, beauty, strength, and dominance, the three key elements that make women the work of art that they are. And Kris the Raven Blackwell, I include you in those sentiments. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Fight, fight, fight! Gonna kick some.
My name is Kris Blackwell, and I fight out of Edmonton, Alberta, which is in Canada. I got picked on a lot growing up, so for me it was more about defending myself. You can only have 3 or 4 people coming at you to beat the crap out of you before you just have enough and you're like, that's it.
The first time I worked with Kris, she had by far the strongest punches and kicks of any girl that I've ever worked with.
Good job.
She's got a great attitude, and she's got a right hook that can drop a donkey.
Kris Blackwell is a ferocious puncher. I'm training my girl just to be ready for it. You know, if she's gonna throw those punches, you've got to be there. You got to be ready to back up, take her down at the knees, and just win the match from the ground.
That was good. So look, anytime you got a chance to cheat, okay, you got her against the cage, hold on, don't let her go anywhere. Okay, you got a chance to rake in there.
He's teaching her to do things I wouldn't necessarily do, so I really have to be careful fighting her because I feel like she might do some dirty stuff that I'm not expecting. So I'm really gonna have to be careful in that sense and just be on my guard all the time.
Yeah, this is about winning. I was 1-6 last time. I don't know if you know that. LFC 19, not good. 1-6.
1-6 at LFC 19 was painful, and I had to do a lot of, looking inwards, a little introspective work. And, I realized I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not the one fighting. It was the girls out there that made all the mistakes.
Well, I gotta tell you something, buddy. Whenever my girls are in there, I am in there fighting. They taking my knowledge and they're taking it to that next level. Every time I see them hurt somebody, I get a little excited inside because I'm hurting them through the girls.